what happened in Nevada? I mean, the Bruins didn't seem like they belonged on the same court for the majority of the night against New Mexico. What were they doing?
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to this edition of Locked On UCLA. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for your support. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season off with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and if you win, you can get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win, go visit FanDuel.com to get started. And where we get started is, man, this team got boat race. Don't let the final score fool you. UCLA lost 72-64 to New Mexico. This was a game New Mexico led 39 minutes and 30 seconds. They dominated this game. There is a stretch where UCLA maybe could have been down 2. Tyler Bilodeau in the first half missed 2 free throws. And the next thing you know, New Mexico ran away with it, went up by double digits in the first half. And the next thing you know, yes, UCLA tried to do the crazy press, do all these crazy things, maybe needed everything to go their way to have a miracle comeback. But this was a game where New Mexico kicked their literal behinds and just, it was ridiculous. The 6'9", 6'9", 6'10" lineup really beat down this UCLA team that is still learning how to play big this year, play as a cohesive unit. And UCLA played small. Mick Cronin, his starting lineup was Johnson, Andrews, Daly Jr., Bilodeau, and Sky Clark. And those guys, nobody produced. I don't want to throw anybody in. Nobody produced. UCLA can't start a Diamara yet because he's not conditioned enough to start and play big minutes. William Kyle, I can see why Cronin doesn't start him because he's not ready and he's not offensively skilled enough yet to go out there and dominate. Kyle in this game, 6 points, 2 of 5 in a game where UCLA needs more of a presence in the post. And then, mind you, New Mexico's opening night, they played Nicholls State and they won 91-84. All right. So Nicholls went to New Mexico and put up 84 points. To beat New Mexico, you have to hit your threes. You have to. Because UCLA, their best lineup is a mismatch size-wise. It seemed like New Mexico played the type of game Mick Cronin wants to play. They could pick up full court. They could trap. They're bigger. They're longer. They're more athletic. They forced UCLA into 21 turnovers, and they scored 21 points off those turnovers, all right? For a large portion of this game, it felt like every rebound was going to New Mexico. And yes, while the rebounding margin was equal, it felt like every necessary rebound New Mexico got. This is a game where the Lobos hit 6 of 15 threes. All right. It wasn't like they're lighting it up. Hit 16 of their 23 free throws. The Bruins shot more free throws and were in the bonus, I believe, earlier than New Mexico, with still 10 minutes to play in the first half. But it was their dominance on the interior. Plus 12 points in the paint. They got out and ran. They were 17 points on the break because UCLA turned it over and it led to layups. They had 12 steals. The amount of forced and unforced turnovers from UCLA's offense today was a bit of an indictment from how you look this team with all the transfers, all the new guys, not fixing it. I just wonder, where's Dominic Harris in this game, right? That's a UCLA sharpshooter who did not make a single appearance. He barely made any appearance in the last 2 preseason and regular season games for UCLA. And it seemed like he was a feature part of their inter-squad scrimmage, lighting it up from downtown. If there's ever a chance for a UCLA team that was 5 of 23 from downtown, all right? Nicholls hit 15 threes against New Mexico on opening night. I don't know if like nearly 40 attempts, but you get it. You throw it up there to beat this long team. You get an open shot against their traps. Then UCLA has to hit the 3. And they didn't tonight. Johnson was 0 for 2. Andrews 0 for 3. You had Stefanovic 0 for 3. You had Sky Clark 1 for 4. Bilodeau, who is open, and he's open for a reason, hit 2 of 7. But there are so many of those shots you can just see from downtown, the extended collegiate three-point range. It's just a little too much for Bilodeau to go shoot that. When you take away his 3-point shots, he was 6 of 13 from the floor, so still close to 50%, but he grabbed 15 rebounds. I'm not sure what Bilodeau does, what the Bruins do on the rebounding side of things if there's no Bilodeau. And the Bruins forced 24 turnovers, and they only scored 15 points off of those. They couldn't go run. Sometimes there's a turnover followed by a turnover. Maybe it was a throwaway in the backcourt. They just did so many stupid things, and that's why Mick Cronin, I feel like Mick Cronin really wanted it like this. He loves to win, and he's a competitive, fiery individual, but he almost hopes and prays, it seems like, that UCLA gets their butt whooped in November. The earlier, the better. The uglier it looks, so he can go to work and just be like, I've been telling you in practice, you got to be better. Or he knows, all right, this is what we need. This is who needs to play or what we need to do to get better. Because the Bruins did not look like the better team. I have been hyping this team up as a Final Four contender because they have the talent to do so. They have the talent to go and compete and win in the Big Ten. But right now, this was a very bad mismatch for UCLA. The size, I saw some of you comments about it. I was like, all right, maybe the Bruins can go do it. The Lobos were in foul trouble. New Mexico had 3 players with 4 more fouls and a guy foul out. And the Bruins couldn't do anything. That depth was not on display. The on-court chemistry wasn't there. And it felt like, were they in the right spots? Or is it just the offensive sets they're running? Or is New Mexico just that good under Richard Pitino playing defense? A team that won the Mountain West tournament a year ago, turning over different things. Their guard, Dent, not to remember that, the Arizona State against Dort. You have the Mexico point guard, Dent, who had 17 points, led all scorers for the Lobos, 8 rebounds, but 9 assists. 8 assists and 9 turnovers. 9 turnovers was one of the guys who handled the ball the most for New Mexico. And UCLA could not seemingly do anything about it. It felt like kind of watching that game also simultaneously with the football game going on at the same time. It was just, dude, what are the Bruins doing? And UCLA still had more second chance points, but it never felt like they were in this game. There was a moment all right, they're close, but just watching it, New Mexico looked like the better team. Now, if UCLA can hit some of those threes, they have the scoring, they have the ability. Bilodeau is just a scoring machine. He gives UCLA a mismatch offensively, but is a bit of a liability on the defensive end. And I think Cronin, he tried to live with things last year. He's going to live with a little bit of some things this year. And with Bilodeau being such a good scorer, hitting with 15 rebounds in 33 minutes of action, he let him get some run time tonight. And the Bruins didn't have it. 6 turnovers from Dylan Andrews. I think the quote post game from Mick Cronin was to Dylan Andrews and Sebastian Mack, where he said, I told those guys with much less talent last year, with a lot less talent last year, you weren't turning over the ball like this, where they're just throwing it to New Mexico and they had wide open layups. It was just, at some points, awful to watch, but they have heart. They fought. A couple of things fall and maybe they have a chance to make the last 2 minutes interesting, but the way this game was played, New Mexico dominated and deserved to win by 10 or more points. A pretty much wire-to-wire win on a neutral court. It's a little different. This would have been fun to see them play in Albuquerque. Would have been fun to see them play in Pauley Pavilion, but it's a nice, all right, this is eyes are elsewhere. There's split attention with football and basketball going on. And hey, you had North Carolina on the road at Kansas giving them a game, who UCLA plays in Madison Square in December. The Bruins have to grow. And I thought this was a mini test. And to clarify the mini test comment, it's one thing to play a tough opponent, but UCLA is going to have a schedule where they're playing Big Ten contenders on the road, back and forth every game. In December, they have a 2-week stretch where they're playing 3 top 10 teams in the country, all outside of their home gym, 2 of which aren't even in their same states and closer to the opposing fans' arenas. So yes, a mini test, but a tough opponent, but it's not like it's a test of an incredible stretch where you play 3 top 10 teams, or you play ranked opponents, or you're going to go in frenzied environments on the road. Now, I wonder how much of this was just an absolutely terrible matchup. You saw that starting lineup. It was 6'9", 6'9", 6'10". And UCLA is not ready to trot out William Kyle III, who I thought could be a starter, but Cronin is not ready to use him in that role. And I think after seeing him a bit more, that is the correct call. If you're not going to hit your threes, then what's going to happen? All right, what are you going to do for UCLA? The foul trouble came from Kobe Johnson a little bit, mostly from Eric Daly Jr., who picked up 4 in 15 minutes. And that's a weapon Cronin loves for his rebounding and his athleticism, his slashing and shooting in the starting lineup. And if he's not on the floor, UCLA was getting hurt when it came to rebounding this game. And they shot 27 free throws in a neutral site game. Missed 8 free throws. They lose this game by 8. So maybe you don't miss a front end of a 1-and-1. You don't miss 2 free throws. You can't go empty when you're trying to claw back, and make a game that looked ugly into a close one or a barn burner late. But no, this was a classy game by New Mexico where they just flat out dominated. And reality check again. I'm not sure what hex there is on UCLA when they step onto a basketball court in Nevada, but something about it, they just can't win. Whether it's a big game in the Pac-12 tournament, whether it's a shoulder injury, whether it's, I don't know, a pre-conference game against Gonzaga, against, Illinois or Baylor, and now New Mexico, UCLA just has to give up 70 to 80 points. There has to be a locker room where Cronin rips these players' egos to shreds just to build them back up in practice and give them more knowledge and more understanding of what they want to do and what they need to do to win this year, which I still think very much they can. Just like 2 years ago, UCLA in the same situation kind of wrote them off after those 2 losses in November. And then they dominated Pac-12 play and were probably by the end of the year a shortlist national championship contender if Clark doesn't pretty much blow out his Achilles and Adembona doesn't separate/hurt his shoulder. That's what happened in the transformation from November to then. Now, there's a lot of moving parts. UCLA in this game with a supposed better offensive roster last year still couldn't hit a field goal in the last nearly 6 minutes of the game with a better offensive roster than last year. And they're still filing in and figuring out the roles. That's going to take a little minute. But I wanted to see how UCLA could play from behind. Well, today they were playing from behind against a better team in a quiet environment. The one thing Mick Cronin said is all right, that's what they're not going to get in the Big Ten. Quiet, lifeless environments. And that did not affect how UCLA got dominated tonight. It was absolutely brutal with what the Lobos brought to the table. And it felt like how UCLA wants to play, they got a prime example looking on the other end by New Mexico. To hit their threes, be timely, get out and run, trap, and just make life a living hell for the opposition. New Mexico was the blueprint tonight, I think, of what Mick Cronin wants his team to be the rest of the season. Minus the 21, 24 turnovers. Those are the 2 numbers each coach is pulling their heads out, whether it's Patino on the New Mexico side or Cronin on the other side, just ripping their heads out looking at the turnovers. That was a horrible number. But the Bruins are going to be that ice cold from 3. And you had last year's top 3 3-point shooter in the country. He's not getting off the bench. There's got to be something there. If he's healthy and available, I don't understand why he's not in the game. I didn't see a Cronin quote about it. And I guess if we haven't seen it, if he's healthy and available, why not throw out the kid to see if he can hit 3 threes? And all of a sudden that opens up the offense for everybody. So again, somebody's in the Cronin doghouse. It seems like if one of your best 3-point shooting options in a game where UCLA had not a lot going for them offensively, especially from beyond the arc, your secret weapon you don't want to unleash or for some reason not, it's seemingly a bit frustrating. It's not like guys who are still learning. This is a kid who's talented. All these kids are talented, and they just did not do much, right? Mack didn't even take a single shot. Sebastian Mack, the guy who's known for getting to the cup, couldn't take a single shot. Just a scared UCLA team against what was a better and much prepared New Mexico team and dominated the Bruins. Reality check came in the dose of a beating in Nevada again. Now we'll see how this UCLA team responds. Get ready to tackle FanDuel and the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to know and place live bets on the NFL all in one place, where you get that hunch in the middle of the game, view live play-by-play, and so much more where you place your live bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. It's going to be a minute before we learn about this UCLA team again. I hope you like dessert, because it is cupcake central from here on out for UCLA in name-wise and what should be opponent-wise for the Bruins, all right? A steady diet of home-cooked meals against mid-major opponents, some of which are traveling across the country to play the Bruins. UCLA doesn't have a big Thanksgiving weekend tournament, feast week tournament. That's not happening this year for the Bruins. They went to Honolulu last year in the Maui Jim Maui Invitational. No, we're not going to learn another big test for UCLA until the month of December, more than a month away from now, closer to a month and a half for this UCLA team. So until they prove that they are prepared, they'll be out of the rankings. They'll probably be, 5-6-1 if you expect them to hold serve and take care of business at home. If they don't, then something's off. If they got all this talent they can't produce this year. Now, it's not sounding alarms. It's not, oh, goodness gracious, it's bad. You looked at it, you watched the first few minutes. They were not ready to compete against a team that was as fast and physical and frenzied on defense like New Mexico was. And that's what Cronin has to go back to the drawing board, get his point guards ready, get his players ready, and probably have a much better offensive game plan for the entire team against a team like New Mexico. Now, not everybody is that big, right? Some teams will have the same game plan, but it's the size and athleticism that truly did the Bruins dirty that they just cannot match. If teams come at them with this size and this athleticism, and if UCLA is not red hot from three, or even mediocre, just average from three, then the Bruins will struggle. Now, they're always good enough defensively, and they play hard enough to get a steal, get a layup to maybe make things into crunch time, a fun, entertaining battle. But to truly compete like they did not for 40 minutes this game, then there's still a lot to learn. And that's why it's November 8th, and there's still a lot of time until we get to March. Probably Mick Cronin's best thing he likes to do, get beat down in November and turn around and be a super team in March. Unbeatable. That's up to him to go to the drawing board, and we'll talk more about this team. But until they play that tough game against Arizona December 14th, everything is expected to be a win. Maybe not until early December with the early games in Big Ten play, but until early December, this team will have no tough games. Until they start Big Ten play, it won't be tough. And until they really get going against Arizona, Gonzaga, North Carolina, then we'll learn those games will mean a lot more for the Bruins and their seeding hopes. That's why they're a 5 seed in Joe Lunardi's bracketology. I keep wanting to hype this Bruin team up, but they have to play like it. And they finally got a sour taste in their mouth early on. We'll figure out how they respond. If they respond poorly, then we know this team might not have the Mick Cronin moxie like he hopes. But again, they're still much better than last year's team. All right. And until then, let's 8-clap. Get your hands up, Bruins fans. 8-clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.